Blood stained the wooden floor of the lakeside cabin as Detective Malone stepped through the doorway. There stood Pastor Nathaniel Carter, his hands crimson, his white clerical collar spattered with evidence of violence, and at his feet, the lifeless body of Aaron Daniels. The respected religious leader of Willow Creek didn't run. He didn't hide. He simply looked up with vacant eyes and whispered, "I never meant for this to happen." In the quiet town of Willow Creek, church bells rang every Sunday, calling the faithful to worship. The residents prided themselves on traditional values and moral righteousness. They trusted Pastor Nathaniel to guide their souls, to counsel their marriages, to baptize their children. His sermons on honesty and integrity drew crowds from neighboring communities. Yet beneath the polished veneer of this religious leader's life lay desires that contradicted everything his congregation believed in. How well do we truly know the people we trust most? The teacher who educates our children, the doctor who treats our illnesses, the pastor who shepherds our faith. How many of them walk through life wearing masks that conceal their authentic selves? Perhaps you've felt it too, that pressure to present a perfect version of yourself to the world, while hiding parts that others might reject. This isn't just a story about murder. It's about the devastating consequences when society forces people to choose between who they truly are and who others demand they should be. It's about secrets kept in plain sight and the inevitable explosion when those secrets can no longer be contained. Before we continue this shocking true story of passion, betrayal, and deadly violence, take a moment to subscribe to True Crimes Unlimited. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our weekly deep dives into cases that expose the darkest corners of human nature. If you've ever wondered what drives seemingly normal people to commit terrible acts, our channel explores exactly that. The breaking points that transform ordinary citizens into criminals. Subscribe now and join our community of truth seekers who understand that reality is often more compelling than fiction. Pastor Nathaniel Carter stood at the helm of Willow Creek Community Church for over 15 years. His journey began as a youth minister, where his charisma and dedication quickly elevated him to lead pastor by age 32. Every Sunday, nearly 400 congregants filled the pews to hear his resonant voice deliver messages of compassion and moral clarity. He had a way of making Scripture feel alive, recalled Deacon Thomas Williams. People who never attended church would come just to hear him speak. Under Nathaniel's leadership, the church expanded its community outreach programs, established a food pantry that served over 200 families monthly, and built a youth center that became a safe haven for local teenagers. The pastor's home life appeared equally exemplary. His marriage to Margaret, a soft-spoken elementary school teacher with a talent for piano, was held up as a model of Christian partnership. They lived in a modest white colonial house 3 blocks from the church, where Margaret hosted Bible studies and holiday gatherings. Their front yard featured a garden that won the town's beautification award 3 years running. The couple's only sorrow, as congregants often whispered, was their inability to have children despite years of trying. "They complemented each other perfectly," said Eleanor Jenkins, a church elder. "Margaret's gentleness balanced Nathaniel's passionate nature. You never saw one without thinking of the other." What the community never witnessed were the silent dinners, the separate bedrooms, the conversations that died before they began. Behind closed doors, Nathaniel struggled with feelings he had buried since adolescence. Attractions that contradicted everything his faith taught him was natural and right. Willow Creek itself fostered an environment where such struggles remained hidden. The town of 12,000 residents boasted 17 churches, but not a single LGBTQ+ support group. The local school board had banned books with any mention of same-sex relationships. When neighboring cities held pride events, Willow Creek ministers organized prayer vigils to heal moral corruption. Nathaniel grew up in this environment under the strict guidance of his father, Reverend Joseph Carter, whose fire and brimstone sermons condemned homosexuality as an abomination. Young Nathaniel learned early to suppress his questions and conform to expectations. By college, he'd constructed a facade so convincing that even he sometimes believed it. "I've counseled countless young men and women to resist worldly temptations," Nathaniel once preached, his knuckles white against the pulpit. "God tests us only as much as we can bear." The congregation nodded, unaware that their pastor spoke not from hypothetical wisdom, but from his daily battle against his authentic self. This was the paradox of Pastor Nathaniel Carter, publicly revered as a moral compass, while privately suffocating under the weight of denied identity. A man who helped others find peace while never experiencing it himself. A respected community leader walking on ground that grew increasingly unstable with each passing year. The church bulletin announced Aaron Daniels' arrival with a simple paragraph. "Willow Creek welcomes our new music director, Aaron Daniels, who brings 15 years of choral experience from Atlanta." What the bulletin failed to mention was Aaron's magnetic presence. Tall, with confident posture, expressive brown eyes, and a smile that transformed his serious face into something radiant. At 36, he carried himself with an ease that Nathaniel had never mastered, despite his public role. Aaron's first Sunday transformed the church's modest choir. Under his direction, voices blended with new precision and emotion. The congregation responded with spontaneous applause after the anthem, something unheard of in Willow Creek's reserved worship style. Pastor Nathaniel found himself watching Aaron's hands as they conducted, strong, graceful movements that communicated without words. "Your sermon complemented the music beautifully," Aaron said after the service, extending his hand to Nathaniel. "I look forward to planning future services together." Their first official meeting lasted 3 hours. What began as a discussion about upcoming worship themes evolved into conversations about theology, music theory, and eventually, personal histories. Aaron spoke openly about growing up in a religious household that rejected him when he came out as gay at 19. "I never abandoned my faith," Aaron explained, "just found a different way to express it." Nathaniel nodded, heart racing, offering vague platitudes about God's love while avoiding any personal disclosure. Yet something shifted that afternoon, a recognition, unspoken but mutual. Their weekly planning sessions became the highlight of Nathaniel's schedule. He found himself selecting sermon topics that required Aaron's input, creating reasons for additional meetings. They developed a shorthand communication style, finishing each other's sentences and laughing at references no one else understood. The first touch came during a late evening at the church. Aaron reached across sheet music to point out a passage, and his hand brushed Nathaniel's. Neither pulled away. The moment stretched, electric with possibility, until the church custodian's keys jangled in the hallway. "I have some additional music at my apartment," Aaron suggested quietly. "Perhaps we could continue there?" That night marked the beginning of their clandestine relationship. Nathaniel told Margaret he was counseling a troubled parishioner, the first of many lies that would accumulate like stones in his pocket, weighing him down but impossible to discard. Aaron's apartment became their sanctuary, a small one-bedroom with walls covered in framed sheet music and bookshelves overflowing with classical literature. Here, Nathaniel experienced conversations without pretense, touches without shame, and eventually, intimacy without the burden of his public persona. They established careful protocols, never arrived together, park blocks away. Check that no church members lived in the vicinity. Their communication moved to burner phones purchased 2 towns over, stored in places their respective households would never discover. "Is this worth the risk?" Aaron asked once, his head resting on Nathaniel's chest. "I don't know how to stop," Nathaniel admitted. "When I'm with you, I feel like myself for the first time." The affair intensified over weeks that stretched into months. Spring turned to summer, and their caution occasionally slipped. A lingering glance during choir practice, standing too close during coffee hour. Small gestures noticed by few but significant in a community where everyone watched the pastor's every move. For Nathaniel, these moments with Aaron became the only reality that mattered, a parallel life growing stronger while his public one increasingly felt like the performance. Neither man acknowledged the inevitable collision course they had set for themselves. As summer faded into autumn, Nathaniel and Aaron established a rhythm to their relationship, carving out precious moments between church obligations and public appearances. They discovered a cabin rental agency 2 counties away that accepted cash payments and asked minimal questions. Under the alias David Williams, Nathaniel secured a rustic retreat beside Lake Morrison where cell service barely reached, perfect for men who needed to vanish from their regular lives. "This is our real home," Aaron commented once, watching sunset colors reflect across the water. The simple statement struck Nathaniel with both joy and terror. Their time together revealed layers to each man that remained hidden from the world. Aaron, so confident in his musical direction, showed vulnerability when discussing his estrangement from family. Nathaniel, authoritative in his pulpit, found freedom in moments of uncertainty and exploration. They shared childhood memories, professional frustrations, and dreams neither had voiced aloud before. Yet with each rendezvous, Nathaniel's internal conflict intensified. Sundays became psychological warfare as he preached about integrity while living a divided existence. He'd catch glimpses of Aaron directing the choir and feel simultaneous waves of desire and shame. After passionate nights together, he'd return home to Margaret with manufactured stories about late counseling sessions or church emergencies. "You seem different," Margaret observed over breakfast one morning. "Distracted. Is everything all right at the church?" "Just budget concerns," he lied, avoiding her gaze. "Nothing for you to worry about." Their elaborate precautions grew increasingly complex. They purchased burner phones from different convenience stores, activating them with cash. They established code words for text messages. Musical selection confirmed meant their meeting was still on. Program needs revision signaled cancellation. Nathaniel kept extra clothes in his car trunk to account for unexplained scents or stains. They memorized each other's schedules to avoid accidental public interactions that might reveal their familiarity. By winter, cracks appeared in their careful arrangement. Aaron, raised in a progressive church that eventually accepted his sexuality, grew increasingly frustrated with the constraints of secrecy. "I'm tired of being your hidden shame," he said during a heated exchange at the cabin. "I left Atlanta to start fresh, not to become someone's part-time lover." "You knew my situation from the beginning," Nathaniel countered, though the words felt hollow even to himself. "I knew, but I didn't understand what it would feel like, being erased from your real life, watching you stand before hundreds of people and pretend to be someone you're not." These arguments began to punctuate their time together, creating a volatile cycle. Passionate reconciliation followed by renewed tension. Aaron pushed for acknowledgement, small gestures like having coffee in public or attending a concert 2 towns over. Nathaniel refused, calculating the risk of exposure against his position, reputation, and marriage. "This isn't just about my job," Nathaniel explained during one particularly difficult conversation. "The church would remove me immediately. My marriage would end. I'd lose my home, my community, everything I've built over decades." "You mean everything you've pretended to build," Aaron corrected. "None of it is real if it's founded on denial of who you truly are." Aaron's patience wore thinner with each passing week. He began documenting their relationship, saving text messages, taking photos when Nathaniel wasn't looking, recording conversations under the guise of capturing song ideas. Initially, he claimed these mementos helped during their days apart, but they gradually transformed into leverage, though Nathaniel remained unaware of their existence. By spring, their secret haven had become a pressure cooker of conflicting desires. Nathaniel's need for discretion clashing violently with Aaron's hunger for acknowledgement. Neither man would bend, yet neither could bear to break their connection. The relationship that had begun with whispered possibilities now simmered with dangerous tension, waiting for the inevitable catalyst that would force their hand. Margaret Carter was not a confrontational woman. Throughout 15 years of marriage, she had perfected the art of quiet observation. She noticed when Nathaniel's cologne changed slightly, when his Thursday counseling sessions extended from 2 hours to 4, when gas receipts appeared from towns they never visited. She cataloged these discrepancies silently, each one a small stone added to a growing pile of evidence she wasn't yet ready to examine. April brought unusually heavy rains to Willow Creek. On a Tuesday evening, while Nathaniel attended a deacon's meeting, Margaret decided to organize his home office. Their marriage had grown increasingly distant, separate bedrooms for what he called his late-night sermon preparation, meals eaten in polite silence, physical affection reduced to perfunctory gestures. Perhaps, she thought, restoring order to his workspace might bridge the widening gap between them. She began with his desk drawers, sorting through pens and paper clips. In the back of the bottom drawer, her fingers brushed against something taped underneath. Margaret pulled out a small black phone she had never seen before. Not his regular iPhone with the church logo case, but a basic model with no password protection. Her hands trembled as she turned it on. The message history loaded. Dozens of texts between Nathaniel and someone saved simply as A. The exchanges left no room for innocent explanation. Miss the taste of you. Last night was worth the risk. Need you again. Same place Friday? Margaret sat motionless in Nathaniel's office chair, reading through months of messages. The phone contained no photos, but the words painted vivid pictures of her husband's betrayal. She placed the phone exactly where she found. Rain pounded the roof of the lakeside cabin as Nathaniel pulled his sedan onto the gravel driveway. The weather matched his mood, turbulent, cold, relentless. He'd texted Aaron that morning with their code for an urgent meeting, offering no explanation. Now, seeing Aaron's car already parked beside the cabin, Nathaniel sat gripping the steering wheel, rehearsing the words he needed to say. Inside, Aaron had lit the fireplace. The cabin smelled of pine and wood smoke, normally comforting scents that now felt suffocating. He'd opened a bottle of wine, the same brand they'd shared during their first night together. I was surprised to get your message, Aaron said, moving to embrace Nathaniel, especially after you canceled our weekend plans. Nathaniel stepped back, avoiding contact. We need to talk. Aaron's expression shifted, reading the gravity in Nathaniel's stance. What's happened? Margaret knows. The words hung in the air between them. She found the phone. Aaron sank onto the worn leather couch. Everything? Enough. She knows about us. She gave me an ultimatum. End things with you or she goes to the church board. The cabin filled with heavy silence, broken only by the crackling fire and rain against windows. Aaron stared into his wine glass, his knuckles white around the stem. So that's it? You're choosing your comfortable lie over us? His voice remained controlled, but a dangerous edge had entered it. It's not that simple, Nathaniel replied. My entire life is tied to the church. Everything I've built, everything you've pretended to build, Aaron interrupted. We've had this conversation before. I'm tired of hearing about your precious reputation. I never promised you more than what we had, Nathaniel said, desperation creeping into his voice. You knew my situation from the beginning. Aaron laughed bitterly. Your situation? You mean your cowardice? The accusation stung. Nathaniel moved toward the fireplace, putting distance between them. I didn't come here to argue. It's over, Aaron. We need to accept that. Accept? Aaron stood abruptly, wine sloshing over the rim of his glass. Like I accepted being your dirty secret for a year? Like I accepted watching you preach about honesty while living a lie? Time stood still as Nathaniel stared at Aaron's motionless body. Blood continued spreading across the wooden floor, reaching the edge of an overturned chair. The reality of what he'd done crashed through his shock. He had killed a man. Not just any man, but someone he had loved. Survival instinct overtook grief. Nathaniel dropped the poker and grabbed Aaron's phone, frantically deleting photos and messages. He wiped it clean before placing it back near the body. Next, he ransacked the cabin, emptying drawers onto the floor, overturning furniture, and smashing a window from the inside. He took Aaron's wallet, watch, and laptop, items a robber would target. Nathaniel scrubbed his hands raw in the bathroom sink, watching pink water swirl down the drain. He changed clothes, bagging his blood-stained shirt and pants. Before leaving, he surveyed the scene one final time. Would investigators believe a robbery had turned violent? He had to hope so. The drive home through relentless rain became a blur of racing thoughts and nausea. Nathaniel buried the bloody clothes and stolen items in the woods 5 miles from town, then returned home to Margaret. "It's over," he told her, voice hollow. "I ended things." 2 days passed in excruciating slowness. Nathaniel performed his pastoral duties mechanically. A hospital visit, a committee meeting, sermon preparation. Each hour heightened his anxiety. Each phone call triggered panic. On the 3rd day, a young couple hiking near Lake Morrison discovered Aaron's body. The female hiker, Tanya Reynolds, later told reporters, "We saw the broken window and thought someone might need help. Nothing prepared us for what we found inside." Police secured the scene and noted inconsistencies immediately. Detective Lisa Mullen, lead investigator, questioned the robbery narrative from the outset. The scene showed clear signs of staging, she would later testify. Electronics were missing, but valuable artwork remained untouched. The window was broken from inside, not outside. Most telling was the victim's position. He hadn't moved after the fatal blow, yet items beneath him had been disturbed, indicating the scene was arranged after death. The investigation quickly narrowed to Nathaniel. Cell tower data placed his phone near the cabin on the night of the murder. A gas station security camera captured his car, heading toward Lake Morrison. The final damning evidence came when police recovered Aaron's phone and restored deleted data, revealing hundreds of intimate exchanges between the choir director and pastor. Forensic analysis sealed Nathaniel's fate. Despite his cleaning efforts, blood spatter analysis showed patterns consistent with a standing attacker striking a victim at close range. Microscopic blood particles remained embedded in the cabin floor where he'd stood. The murder weapon carried his fingerprints, and DNA testing revealed both men's genetic material throughout the cabin. 6 days after Aaron's death, as Nathaniel delivered a Sunday sermon on forgiveness, Detective Mullen entered the sanctuary with 2 officers. The congregation watched in stunned silence as their pastor was handcuffed and read his rights, the facade of his carefully constructed life collapsing completely. "Please understand." "I understand perfectly," Aaron cut him off. "You're willing to throw away the only authentic relationship you've ever had because you're afraid." Nathaniel turned away, unable to face the truth in Aaron's words. "We need to be careful now. Margaret hasn't gone to the board yet, but if anyone else finds out—" "Oh, I think people will find out regardless," Aaron said, his tone suddenly calmer. Something in his voice made Nathaniel turn back. Aaron had pulled out his phone and was scrolling through it with deliberate slowness. "What are you doing?" Aaron held up the screen, showing Nathaniel a photo of them together in bed, Nathaniel's face clearly visible. "Insurance. I've been collecting it for months." Blood drained from Nathaniel's face. "You've been recording us?" "Not always. Just enough." Aaron swiped through more images. Text messages, photos, even a few audio recordings of you discussing how much you hate pretending to be straight. Quite compelling material. "Why would you do this?" Nathaniel whispered. "Initially as memories, then as protection." Aaron set down his wine glass. "I always suspected this day might come, when you'd choose your fake life over what we have." "You're blackmailing me?" Disbelief colored Nathaniel's voice. "I prefer to call it negotiation. You have two options. Tell Margaret you've reconsidered and continue seeing me while we figure out a long-term solution, or I send these to every deacon in your church." Rage replaced shock as Nathaniel processed the betrayal. "You would destroy me? After everything we've shared?" "You're destroying us right now," Aaron countered. "I'm simply refusing to be discarded." Nathaniel lunged forward, grabbing for the phone. Aaron jerked away, but Nathaniel caught his wrist. They struggled, crashing into the coffee table, sending the wine bottle shattering across the floor. "Give me the phone!" Nathaniel demanded, his voice unrecognizable even to himself. "Never!" Aaron broke free, backing toward the fireplace. "This is who you really are, Nathaniel. Violent when cornered, just like your sermons about righteous anger." The taunt pushed Nathaniel past reason. He charged forward as Aaron reached for the fireplace poker. Whether for protection or attack, neither would ever know for certain. In the chaos of their struggle, Nathaniel seized the heavy metal rod and swung. The sickening sound of metal connecting with skull echoed through the cabin. Aaron crumpled instantly, blood pooling beneath his head on the wooden floor. His phone clattered beside him, screen still illuminated with evidence of their relationship. Nathaniel stood frozen, the poker still gripped in his hand, watching crimson spread across planks he had once associated with passion and freedom. The rain continued its steady rhythm against the windows, indifferent to the irreversible moment that had just transpired within. The Willow Creek Courthouse had never seen such crowds. For 3 weeks, residents lined up before dawn, hoping to secure one of the limited public seats for what newspapers called the Pastor's Fall. The community that once revered Nathaniel Carter now dissected every revelation about his double life with a mixture of horror and fascination. "I trusted him with my children," sobbed Melissa Donovan, a longtime church member, to reporters outside the courthouse. "He baptized my son while living this lie." Inside, prosecutor Victoria Reyes methodically dismantled Nathaniel's character and claims of self-defense. She displayed restored text messages on courtroom screens, forcing the jury to confront the intimate relationship between the pastor and choir director. "The defendant didn't just kill Aaron Daniels," Reyes argued in her opening statement. "He killed him because Mr. Daniels threatened to expose their relationship, a relationship that would have destroyed the defendant's carefully constructed public image." The prosecution called 43 witnesses over 12 days. Margaret Carter's testimony proved particularly devastating. Dressed in simple black, she described discovering the burner phone and her ultimatum to her husband. "He came home that night with wet clothes," she testified, her voice barely audible. "He said he'd been caught in the rain after ending things with Aaron. I believed him." Digital forensics expert Dr. Raymond Chen presented the technical evidence, explaining how data recovered from Aaron's phone contradicted Nathaniel's claim of a random robbery. "These messages show clear evidence of an intimate relationship spanning approximately 11 months, Dr. Chen testified. The deletion pattern indicates someone attempted to remove specific content related to their relationship, not a random theft. The defense team, led by attorney Michael Brennan, attempted to portray Aaron as the aggressor. They suggested he had threatened Nathaniel with exposure, creating a situation where the pastor feared for his career and reputation. "My client acted in a moment of panic," Brennan argued. "This was a tragic confrontation that escalated beyond anyone's intentions." The strategy collapsed during cross-examination when prosecutor Reyes asked Nathaniel directly, "If you feared for your safety, why did you stage the scene as a robbery instead of calling police?" His stammered response, "I was afraid no one would believe me," rang hollow against the mountain of evidence suggesting premeditation. The jury deliberated for just 7 hours before returning their verdict, guilty of second-degree murder. As the forewoman read the decision, several church members wept openly. Nathaniel stood motionless, his face expressionless. Judge Eleanor Harmon delivered her sentence 1 week later. Mr. Carter, you held a position of moral authority in your community while living a life of deception, she stated. While I acknowledge the societal pressures that may have contributed to your situation, nothing justifies taking another person's life to protect your reputation. She sentenced him to 25 years in state prison with possibility of parole after serving 15 years. As officers led Nathaniel away, he turned toward Margaret one final time. She looked away, her face a mask of grief and betrayal. Outside the courthouse, the community remained divided. Some expressed satisfaction with the verdict, while others questioned whether justice truly accounted for the complex circumstances that led to the tragedy. Was justice served in this case? The legal system delivered its verdict, but the moral questions remain complex. Should Nathaniel's sentence have been lighter considering the societal pressures he faced? Or was 25 years appropriate for taking a life to protect a lie? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Would you have delivered the same verdict if you sat on that jury? Your perspective matters in these difficult conversations about justice, identity, and the consequences of living inauthentically. 5 years after the trial, Willow Creek remains forever changed. The church where Nathaniel once preached stands half-empty most Sundays, its congregation fractured by the scandal. Some members left organized religion entirely, questioning the institutions that created such pressure for conformity. Others formed a new, inclusive worship community that explicitly welcomes LGBTQ+ members. Margaret divorced Nathaniel during his first year in prison and eventually moved to another state. She declined all interview requests, but published a memoir titled Living with Shadows, chronicling her journey toward healing. In it, she wrote, "The greatest betrayal wasn't his affair or even the violence, it was that he never gave me the chance to know him authentically." Aaron's parents established a music scholarship in his memory at the high school where he first discovered his passion for choral direction. The annual concert series draws hundreds, celebrating artistic expression while promoting acceptance. From his prison cell, Nathaniel wrote letters to Margaret, to Aaron's family, to his former congregation. Most remained unanswered. In correspondence with his former seminary professor, he reflected, "I wonder who I might have become in a world that allowed me to exist as my true self. Would Aaron still be alive? Would anyone have been hurt? The weight of those questions is my real prison." This tragedy illuminates how societal expectations can create impossible choices. When communities demand conformity above authenticity, when religious institutions reject rather than embrace human complexity, they create the conditions for deception. While nothing excuses Nathaniel's violent act, understanding the forces that shaped his choices reveals how quickly suppressed identity can transform into destructive behavior. The story of Pastor Nathaniel Carter serves as a powerful reminder that the most dangerous lies are often those we tell ourselves, that denying fundamental truths about who we are creates pressure that eventually must find release, sometimes with devastating consequences. If this exploration of human psychology and tragic choices resonated with you, please support our channel by liking this video and subscribing to True Crimes Unlimited. Each week, we examine cases that challenge our understanding of human behavior and the social forces that shape our actions. Share this video with someone who appreciates nuanced discussions about complex moral questions. What other cases would you like us to explore? Let us know in the comments below, and join our community of viewers who understand that behind every crime lies a story of human frailty worth examining.